You already know more than you think. The problem is you've been trained to ignore it. Every day, people around you reveal themselves in ways they don't even notice. Tiny signals, hidden tells, cracks in the mask. But most of us never learn how to read them, and Nietzsche believed this blindness wasn't an accident. Society teaches you to listen to words, to trust appearances, to accept the surface. But Nietzsche warned us, words are often camouflage. People don't speak from truth. They speak from fear, from ego, from survival. That's why this video isn't just a list of quick tips. It's a deep journey, divided into 3 parts, each building on the last. By the end, you won't just understand others more clearly. You'll see yourself with a clarity that might unsettle you, but also transform you. So stay with me. Skip ahead and you'll miss the thread, but watch carefully, and by the end, you'll realize something extraordinary. That human beings are not hard to read at all. They're just hiding, mostly from themselves. From childhood, you've been told to trust what people say, take them at their word. But Nietzsche noticed something disturbing. People don't even know why they say what they say. Their opinions, their smiles, even their anger. These aren't pure expressions of the self. They're armor, stitched together from years of trying to survive the expectations of family, culture, and the crowd. That means most people aren't deceiving you. They're deceiving themselves. And yet, the truth is always leaking out, in the cracks, in the silences, in the contradictions. Nietzsche once wrote that every profound spirit needs a mask. He didn't mean this as cynicism, but as warning. If you confuse the mask with the person, you'll never truly know them. This is where we begin. Truth 1. Everyone wears a mask, not to fake, but to survive. Society doesn't reward raw honesty. It rewards performance. That's why people create a version of themselves they hope will be accepted. The cheerful employee who never complains may actually be drowning in resentment. The stoic father who never cries may be carrying unbearable grief. But here's the thing. Masks aren't perfect. They slip. Watch closely for the tension, the nervous laugh, the quick glance away, the sudden change of subject. Wherever someone is most uncomfortable, that's where the real person begins. Truth 2. What someone hates in others reveals what they fear in themselves. Nietzsche saw criticism as a mirror. When someone constantly mocks arrogance, it's often because they fear their own lack of worth. When someone obsesses over dishonesty in others, they're usually hiding a truth they can't face. We project outward what we refuse to admit inward. So don't just notice what people admire. Pay closer attention to what they condemn and why. Truth 3. Silence reveals more than speech. Nietzsche didn't trust language. He believed that the herd used it to avoid reality. But silence? Silence is raw. When someone dodges a question with a vague pause, when they give a rehearsed answer to something that should matter deeply, when they smile but their body stiffens, that silence is louder than words. It tells you what they're afraid to say. Truth 4. Loud virtue is often disguised vanity. Nietzsche was ruthless about morality. He believed that people often wear goodness as a mask for power. The louder someone signals their virtue, the more they correct, preach, and demand applause for their purity, the more likely they're hiding something. Real goodness doesn't need a spotlight. It moves quietly. The louder the performance of purity, the greater the suspicion that it's just a shield. Truth 5. People lie to themselves before they lie to you. Think about it. I'm fine. I don't care. I'm over it. These aren't lies to deceive you. They're lies rehearsed so often that the speaker believes them. Nietzsche saw self-deception not as evil, but as survival. It's how people keep functioning in a painful world. So when someone's story doesn't add up, don't assume they're malicious. Realize they've been lying to themselves far longer than they've been lying to you. And that's why their inconsistencies, the slips, the contradictions, are where the truth leaks out. Truth 6. Superiority hides inferiority. Nietzsche understood pride differently than most. The person who constantly reminds you of their accomplishments. The one who casually puts others down. They're not overflowing with confidence. They're compensating for its absence. Behind superiority, there's usually a wound. Real confidence doesn't need to prove itself. But the one who builds a throne and insists on sitting above everyone else? More often than not, you'll find a frightened child beneath the crown. It's one thing to notice the surface, the mask, the projection, the silence. But Nietzsche understood something darker. The self isn't stable. It's a fragile performance stitched together out of fear, and the moment it's threatened, the cracks widen. This is where people betray themselves most clearly. Not in the persona they build, but in the slips they can't control. Let's uncover the next 6 truths. Truth 7. Most actions are driven by unconscious fear. We like to believe people act from desire, that choices come from passion, ambition, or love. But Nietzsche knew better. Most actions are motivated not by what people want, but by what they're terrified of losing. Why does someone over-explain? Fear of being misunderstood. Why do they dominate conversations? Fear of being invisible. Why do they always say yes when they mean no? Fear of abandonment. The question isn't, what do they want? It's what are they afraid of? If you can answer that, you can read them more accurately than they read themselves. Truth 8. Harsh criticism is projection in disguise. Nietzsche believed judgment says more about the critic than the target. The man who mocks emotional people, he's terrified of his own feelings. The woman who belittles others' appearance, she's locked in a war with her own reflection. When someone repeats the same critique again and again, don't get distracted by their words. Trace the judgment back to its origin. Projection isn't just defense, it's confession. It's a roadmap to the critic's private pain. Truth 9. False confidence hides guilt. We've all met the person who always seems certain, always in control, always unshaken. But Nietzsche saw through this act. Certainty is often a performance, staged to cover guilt or regret. The leader who never admits mistakes. The teacher who over-prepares for every lesson. The preacher who insists he knows the truth. Watch closely, and you'll see the tension, the clenched jaw, the defensiveness when challenged. This isn't peace. It's guilt in disguise. True confidence doesn't need to prove itself, but when confidence is exaggerated, guilt is usually standing in the shadows. Truth 10. Exaggeration reveals the opposite of what's claimed. Pay attention to absolutes. I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm always happy. I never get jealous. Nietzsche recognized that exaggeration is a tell. When someone insists too loudly, it's because the opposite is true. The ego amplifies what it doubts. So when someone declares absolutes, don't take them literally. Read the insecurity underneath. Exaggeration isn't strength. It's the volume knob on inner doubt. Truth 11. The hunger for control reveals inner chaos. Why do some people need to dominate every room? Why do they micromanage, obsess over details, or rage when life doesn't go as planned? Nietzsche saw this as overcompensation for inner disorder. The stricter the outer control, the more fragile the inner self. The controlling partner isn't strong. They're terrified of losing control inside. The boss who manages every move of their employees isn't confident. They're at war with their own chaos. So the next time you face someone controlling, don't be intimidated. See them clearly. A person grasping at order because they fear collapse. Truth 12. Performance masks emptiness. This might be Nietzsche's most haunting insight, and in our world of curated online lives, it feels prophetic. The louder the performance, the emptier the core. The influencer who posts daily perfect happiness. The colleague who constantly brags. The friend who needs every moment to be a show. These aren't signs of strength. They're desperate attempts to be seen. Someone who truly knows themselves doesn't need a stage. They already belong to themselves. So when you see endless performance, remember, behind the spectacle is usually a whisper. Will I ever be loved for who I really am? By now you've seen how masks slip, how fear drives behavior, how projection and performance betray the truth. But Nietzsche believed that if you stop there, you're only halfway. The real clarity comes when you trace people's patterns back to where they began, to the original wounds that shaped their personality. Because behind every adult is a child still trying to feel safe. And if you can recognize this, you stop seeing people as enemies or puzzles. You begin to see them as humans, fragile, wounded, and desperate to be whole. These final 6 truths will take us there. Truth 13. People don't speak from logic, they speak from pain. You might think arguments are rational, opinions are built from reason. Nietzsche disagreed. He believed almost every worldview is born from wounds. The man who says, "Love isn't real," isn't citing evidence, he's shielding a heartbreak. The woman who insists, "Trust no one," isn't being logical, she's remembering betrayal. Logic is often just the armor wrapped around pain. So if you want to understand someone's beliefs, don't just debate them. Ask, what hurt are they protecting? What fear are they avoiding? When you see that, their words stop being threats. They become shields. Truth 14. How someone treats weakness reveals their true power. Want to know someone's character? Don't watch how they treat the strong. Watch how they treat the powerless. The person who mocks vulnerability is terrified of their own. The boss who punishes mistakes was probably punished mercilessly themselves. The friend who can sit with your sadness without running away, that's real strength. Nietzsche believed restraint is power. True strength doesn't need to humiliate the weak. It can stand beside them without fear. So if you want to see who someone really is, watch what they do when compassion is an option. That moment reveals the soul. Truth 15. The fear of being forgotten drives the hunger for attention. Some people seem desperate to be noticed. Every room they enter, every story they tell, every outfit screams, "Look at me." At first glance, it looks like confidence. But Nietzsche saw through it. He believed the craving for attention comes from something deeper, the terror of being invisible. The child who felt ignored becomes the adult who demands the spotlight. The silence they couldn't bear in childhood becomes the noise they create in adulthood. So the next time someone seems too much, don't rush to judgment. Ask instead, what silence are they still running from? Truth 16. We attack what we secretly admire. This is one of Nietzsche's most uncomfortable truths. People don't always attack out of hate. More often, they attack out of envy they can't admit. The person who mocks someone's success often feels they can never achieve their own. The one who gossips about someone's confidence is secretly longing for courage. Criticism is often just admiration in chains. Envy is unspoken desire. It's the soul whispering, I want that too, but I don't believe I can have it. So when you see hate, look for the hidden admiration behind it. It changes everything. Truth 17. People act out their childhood, not their beliefs. We like to think we're rational adults making conscious choices. Nietzsche would disagree. He saw adults as actors, endlessly repeating childhood roles. The child who was never heard grows into the adult who never listens. The child punished for emotions grows into the adult who prides themselves on being logical. The child who had to earn love grows into the adult who performs endlessly for approval. They think they're living out their beliefs, but in truth, they're reliving their past. So if you want to read someone, don't just ask, what do they believe? Ask, who did they have to be in order to survive? Truth 18. Patterns are confessions. This is Nietzsche's final, devastating insight. People don't always know how to say what hurts them, but they show it, again and again, in their patterns. The person who disappears when relationships get close is confessing, I was hurt when I trusted before. The person who overworks is confessing, stillness scares me. The person who flirts with everyone but connects with no one is confessing, I want love, but I'm terrified of rejection. These aren't random quirks. They're confessions written in behavior. If you listen deeply, you'll hear the story before it's spoken. And this is where everything comes together. Now look, just because you can read the pain behind someone's actions doesn't mean their wrongdoings are justified. After learning everything from this video, I don't want you to go around being the unpaid therapist of others. Stop. That is not why this video reached you. It reached you to be more self-aware about yourself, to learn how to protect your peace in a world where everyone is pretending. Figure out the ways people can manipulate you and save yourself from that pain. I know some people will think this video is telling you to be more compassionate to others. No, it is telling you to be compassionate to yourself and how to see through people's lies. The filters they use in their everyday life can be harmful for you if you think that is them being real. There are wolves out there in the form of sheeps. Recognize them and stay away from them. Remember, their unresolved trauma is not your responsibility when you can use that same energy to help yourself first. So open your eyes and look around. Notice their body language and learn about them through their actions, not words. 18 truths. 18 ways people reveal themselves without meaning to. At first, it seems like a way to read others, but Nietzsche wanted something more. Because every truth you've just learned isn't only about them. It's about you, your own masks, your own projections, your own childhood scripts. The more clearly you see others, the more clearly you see yourself. And once you see, you can't unsee. Nietzsche didn't want us to stop at judgment. He wanted us to recognize that everything we condemn in others is something we carry. Everything we admire is something we long to embody. So take a moment. Which truth hit you the hardest? Which one revealed not just someone else, but yourself? Comment below, because sharing these insights isn't just conversation. It's a way of building honesty in a world full of masks. And if this spoke to you, don't stop here. Subscribe, because this isn't the end. It's the beginning of learning to see what's hidden and becoming who you truly are.